Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlinson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Welcome to the 19th Reflections and Observations episode of this year. And what a year it's been. The longest, relentless roller coaster I've been on for sure. And yet with all the adversity we have faced collectively, there's also been invaluable, wonderful opportunities and learnings to be taken on board too. I can't explain just how much I've grown personally in the last month, let alone since the end of March. I've been on coaching and NLP courses, and since launching this podcast, I've embraced so many new things and met so many new people and created and nurtured an incredible community around me. And going back to March the 23rd, that was the day that this all started. Otherwise known as the bombshell day, because that's what I wrote in my journal. It was what I felt at the time. My business partner had said he wanted to part ways in our property training business, which we'd spent the previous 18 months building together. And I felt that my world had been turned upside down in a matter of moments, pretty much just how the world had been turned upside down for everyone. However, as I said in episode 1, I thank my business partner for making that decision, as he had seen me heading into a different direction with a different focus and essentially helped me to make that decision. And where I have subsequently taken that has been entirely my own choosing. And I want to thank you for sharing this journey of Focus on Why together with me. Today is Christmas Day, and I want to take a moment out to share some gratitude. We are spending Christmas differently to how we usually spend Christmas Day. We're normally surrounded by our family and loved ones, and we're often even away from our home. This year, for our safety, we have been asked to stay at home. Particularly in the UK, I know this is the same for many countries around the world, and we're not allowed to mix with other households. We're not allowed to see our family. And it's disappointing. You're disappointed, as am I, not to be able to spend it physically with your extended family and friends. However, this year has tested your resilience, your responsibility, and your resourcefulness. And as you, I am just grateful to be alive. I don't take my health for granted for a second, and I'm so grateful for all those people who have been working tirelessly on the front line to keep the world running. The Thursday clap for the NHS may no longer take place. However, every day as I write in my journal, I show my appreciation for life and all those involved behind the scenes in the mechanics of running our incredible world around us. Thank you to each and every one of you who continues to make a difference in your own unique way. So today, on Christmas Day, I'd like to share my reflections and observations covering the last 4 episodes. And I also want to take the opportunity to reflect on the podcast over these last few months. Today is the 130th episode of the show, and I knew when I started to pull the framework together just how powerful a show it could evolve into. As I recorded each episode one by one, it quickly gathered momentum, and whilst each episode stood alone, it was also intrinsically connected to the next. The audience has grown organically. You've recommended the show to your friends and family, and as we enter into 2021, Focus on Why is now being downloaded in 69 countries. It's had tens of thousands of downloads, and it's all been thanks to you for sharing your feedback and insights that the show has grown to where it has today. So thank you. Thank you to all of you in the audience for tuning in. Thank you to the guests for sharing all your stories, and thank you to John for all his help editing these episodes and making the Zoom recordings sound so professional. And a final thank you goes to me for trusting myself to pull this off. As I said earlier, I've grown this year so much more than I could ever have imagined. It took courage of conviction to follow through with the unknown, and I trusted myself to deliver what I believed to be right. And here we are, 130 episodes later, once again in lockdown on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to you all, and let's talk about the recent episodes. We've only got 4 to cover this time. The first one is episode 126, Share Your Message with Camilla Long. Now, I've known Camilla for almost 18 years. We first met through a mutual friend when we all had our first babies, and we spent many hours walking and talking, pushing our prams through Greenwich Park. Camilla left London to head back to Northern Ireland, and we've kept in touch ever since. And it was Camilla who reached out to me on LinkedIn, commenting on one of the podcasts back in August, that brought us back together and brought us to recording this episode. And the schedule was so booked up with guests that this was the first free slot for her to come onto the show. And what a wonderful episode it was, totally worth waiting for. And so many people have been in touch to share just how much they love this episode. Camilla commands the space, and she shares her professional journey with us. And there are few better placed than computer scientist Camilla to help us communicate and share your message in a virtual world. Her background as a software developer in Japan through to an equity markets broker in London has led her to a place where she now works with organisations, large and small, to empower people to talk and speak with confidence and conviction. And learning lessons from doing business within the world's leading hedge funds and banks and the cut and thrust of the capital markets, Camilla is able to help you take on those challenges that stretch you, because stepping up means that you'll grow and expand your influence and feel more fulfilled in your role. Camilla helps you to become a great TEDx speaker so that you can deliver it effortlessly to appeal to your audience. And her advice is to draw on the past. It is an episode where credibility combines with vulnerability, where the emotional appeal meets the logic, data and statistics, and she strikes that right balance to connect with the audience to share her message. Now let's look at those elements that Camilla references: ethos, pathos and logos. The 3 modes of persuasion used to convince audiences. And in the episode, I raised the question of maybe they weren't always as equal elements. And Camilla said that there isn't a set formula for all 3. And she's right, there almost certainly isn't. And it's not like that when you engage with an audience, because each time is unique. However, I did some research into public speaking this year, and I read several books, including Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo, How to Own the Room by Viv Groskop, TED Talks by Chris Anderson, and The Art of Public Speaking, Lessons from the Greatest Speeches in History by John R. Hale, which is a fascinating collection of 12 lectures talking about the most inspiring speeches delivered since 4th century BC. And this book walks you through how to prepare for public speaking, how to craft a great speech, and how to handle your audience. And there are speeches included from Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Abraham Lincoln, Marie Curie, Elizabeth I, and Demosthenes rallying the citizens of Athens. Gallo talks of mastering the art of storytelling, and he uses Aristotle's components of persuasion, which are ethos, pathos and logos. And he puts that split, or maybe it was Aristotle, as ethos with 10%, pathos as 65%, and logos at 25%. And that's an interesting combination, because those different elements are not equal. There is a massive interest on having pathos. That is the core element of your speech. And that is evolving around emotion. Connection with your audience is paramount, so your talk needs to be emotional, novel, memorable. You need to be a great storyteller and reach into people's hearts and minds. It needs to be that you make your mission to inform, educate and entertain, and using the rule of 3. Now, that could be the rule of 3 A's, which is authenticity, awareness and attitude, or the 3 C's, charisma, competence and confidence, or the 3 P's, passion, presence and practice. And of course, that leads me to the 3 R's, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Master the art of storytelling and you master the art of communication. Next up is episode 127, One Belief Away with Tim Shurr. When I first heard Tim speak, I was hypnotized by his words. Not in the literal sense. I was captivated, and I knew I had to ask him onto the podcast and talk about hypnosis. And here he is. What a fabulous conversation that was. And again, I could be led down so many different paths to explore in this reflections and observations episode. Do I talk about the 2 pharmacists that we have in your brain? Do I talk about your blind spots, or the 15,000 sessions that Tim's conducted, or the ability that you have to retrain your brain, the power of hypnosis itself, or its reputation over time? Maybe I talk about Tim's admirable approach to rid the world of all the isms, one which I share with him a great passion of. And maybe I talk about the core message of being just one belief away from everything you desire. Well, I think what I'll do is talk about this particular route. Tim said he wasn't thriving, he was surviving. He wasn't playing to win, he was playing not to lose. He was stressed a lot. He was always worried about money, always being broke, always trying to figure out what his next move was going to be. And so he carried so much pressure with him, and security and self-doubt. And it was when he first started experiencing hypnosis that he felt relaxation, that sense of ease that was so different. And he described it as being, wow, what is this? And then he started to share that he learned about how your thoughts have influence over how you feel. He didn't know anything about this, and he didn't ever pay attention to his thoughts. He didn't pay attention to what he was saying to himself. He thought that life was just happening to him, that God didn't like him, that he didn't even like himself. Tim shared these really personal feelings, and it takes me back to recently the other episode that I recorded with Kim Adele-Platz, where she shared about her constant self-talk, which negatively took over, and she didn't like herself either. Now, bearing in mind, you're going to spend the rest of your life with this inner talk. Wouldn't it just be a whole lot easier if you just got along with one another? Once you've got your pharmacist sorted out, it's time to focus on the person who's chattering away 24/7 in your head. And for me, this all comes back down to your language, and more specifically, the language you choose to use. Now, language has always fascinated me, which is why I studied linguistics at university. For 3 years, I studied the history and structure of language, phonetics, syntax, semantics, sociolinguistics, dialectology, the physiology of language production, speech therapy, child language acquisition, second language acquisition. I even learnt the International Phonetic Alphabet, which enabled me to technically pronounce any language in the world. And yet not once did I ever encounter the concept of self-talk. Or if I did, I don't recall it. My dissertation centred on the perception of English vowels, where I showed how that we filter out the ability to perceive and produce sounds around the critical age of 8. And that meant that even though we may learn languages and speak them fluently after that age, we will never sound fluent if we'd learnt them after that critical age of 8. Now, a learner of English as a second language would have difficulty discerning between ship and sheep, chip and cheap. However, I digress. One of the benefits of having my own show is that I can do that if I wish to. And it was one of the reflections that I had here is that I remembered all these elements of language and yet nothing about self-talk. Internal dialogue, which is influenced by your subconscious mind to reveal your thoughts, your beliefs, your doubts, questions and ideas. Your internal dialogue is there alongside you during all your waking hours, and those of us who master our internal dialogue will go on to achieve great things. Your positive self-talk becomes such a powerful tool to become more confident, more driven, focused, productive, motivated, and ultimately more purposeful in your actions. Learn to love yourself. Encourage yourself to be everything that you have always wanted to be. You have one life. Live it. Love it. And today on Christmas Day, I'd like to offer you a gift. The gift of purpose and fulfillment. I have a few slots of my coaching coming available in January, and I wanted to reach out to you to say that I will hold my prices up to the 31st of December. And as of the 1st of January, they will be increasing. One of my recent clients shared with me what it is that the coaching one-to-one meant for her. After deliberating and still being undecided in my business strategy, I met with Amy, and within our first meeting, all of the clutter of uncertainty was cleared and replaced with a plan. Most importantly, it was a plan in alignment to my values. This meant everything to me. From here, I had complete clarity and knew where I was headed and why. That was Tanya, and she went on to achieve many, many great things and be in a very different position in 2020 from where she would have been had she not set herself up at the big end of 2019. So do you feel that you are at a crossroads right now and not sure which direction to take, that you're not 100% sure that you're even on the right track? Perhaps you've been thinking of working with a coach all year, yet for one reason or another, you put it on hold, but now you're reaching the end of 2020. You feel it's time to stop procrastinating and take that action. Then allow me to help you to live a life which is more purposeful and fulfilling, which is aligned with your core values. Because now is your time. This is your opportunity to get clarity, direction, and purpose in your professional and personal life. Simply book in a call with me before the 31st of December to reserve your coaching slot, and I'll honour those 2020 prices for you. Make the impact you want and make a difference to others by taking responsibility for your future today. Let's come back to the reflections. Next up is episode 128, Mind Over Mountains with Alex Staniforth. I can't describe the admiration that I have for Alex and his command on life at such a young age. Those 2 near-death experiences on Everest have shaped and defined him in ways that take others decades to come anywhere close to. At the age of 25, Alex has already had the opportunity to reinvent himself several times. He talks of a normal upbringing, yet from the age of 9, in his words, his self-esteem was shattered and he found school incredibly challenging with bullying, anxiety, and an eating disorder. But Alex found a way to fight back, using the outdoors to overcome his challenges, to rid the victim mindset and live life on his own terms and change the order of things. Having experienced the 2 biggest consecutive disasters in Mount Everest's history, including the 2015 Nepal earthquake, which trapped him on the mountain for 2 days, Alex may have failed to have reached the summit. However, at minus 23 degrees and at 23,000 feet, Alex discovered the power of acceptance through adversity. And he went on to follow another path in life. Now he's a record-breaking adventurer, an endurance athlete, an international motivational speaker, an author, and a mental health activist. What has been your Everest? Or what is your current Everest? What fuels your engine? Have you discovered your authentic purpose yet? Like Alex, what will you do to achieve the extraordinary and perhaps retrieve those lost dreams? What will you commit to do in 2021 to take you a step closer to those lost dreams? Is it a case of mind over matter, or as Alex calls it, mind over mountains? Use willpower to triumph and restore well-being using nature to build your resilience and reconnect with yourself. Nature is your natural environment, and yet you spend so little time outside and so much indoors. It's time to get outside. Make it a New Year's resolution that starts today to get outside. Alex, as a teenager, was on a mission to the top of the world, and now In his early 20s, he is inspiring others to achieve their own Everest and continues to challenge himself daily. You don't need to be at 23,000 feet or at minus 23 degrees to discover your purpose. Just breathing in fresh air at sea level will work just as well. Take a deep breath in of fresh air and feel all the elements through all of your senses to remind you of your vitality, of your living, breathing self. Remember, as Tim Shurr said, you are already enough. You have nothing to prove to anyone. Ask yourself, why are you here? Appreciate the world around you and ask yourself not what can the world do for you, but what can you do for the world? What do you want to create in your time on this planet? What type of world do you want to live in? Who do you need to become to make that happen? And ask yourself the question that I ask all of my guests. Why do you do what you do? When you focus on why, the how, who, what, and when will all naturally manifest. Last episode for today is episode 129, Unconscious Competence with Jackie Handy. A struggling leader turned great leader, excluded and isolated to become included and recognised for her contribution. Jackie now specialises in diversity and inclusion and inclusive leadership. Having seen both sides of the coin, Jackie equips others with the answers to the questions she'd wished she'd known the answers to when she was a leader of people. Jackie inspires culture change to empower and grow businesses and the people within them with unconscious competence as her ultimate goal. Jackie says that in a world that challenges us regularly in our own unique ways, love always prevails. Small steps, that's all it takes, she says. Small steps, and of course, it's true. It comes down to the compound effect, or the slight edge, or eat that frog. All concepts that involve small increments that gather momentum over time and eventually become sizable and significant. Jackie shares her vulnerability in this episode, a trait I have come to recognise through this podcast that is one of the most powerful and effective personality traits that you can exhibit. In your vulnerability lies great power and strength, the power of courage to stand up and be counted. Jackie shared firsthand how exclusion felt, the hurt and anxiety she felt through bullying in her teens that led her on a mission to ensure that others don't experience what she did. She engages and encourages leaders to think differently and, importantly, to act differently, resulting in personal fulfilment as well as a workforce who are truly engaged. It's not enough to be conscious, though. It is your unconscious competence that is Jackie's goal, such that there will almost be, there will be no need for her to do the work she's doing. Because at that point, she will have achieved her mission. When the world reaches a point of unconscious competence and diversity and inclusivity, that's when the mission will be achieved. And this takes me back to Keith Harris's episode where we talked about racism, labels, perception and opinions. And Keith in his own way is on his own personal mission to change the world, and in a plead to the people he wrote an open letter to the music industry and to the world saying that what you do and say now will be important through the prism of history and will have significance in the future. We have to change people's opinions and teach them properly for our children to live in a better world. And Jackie has echoed Keith's words in that those who remain conscious and silent when they encounter racism and fail to challenge it, this can be interpreted as tacit approval. And it's truly shocking what is still going on today in society. Keith requests that we speak out for racial equality and make sure that it's not another false dawn. There's still a long way to go for diversity and inclusion to become embedded, for a world of freedom, love and kindness. And Jackie asks you to challenge your own behaviour and language, saying that love always prevails. Ultimately, inclusion is love, unconditional love, and it all comes down to your thoughts, your language, your beliefs, your values, your inner dialogue. You have the ability to choose to think, speak, believe, and follow whatever you choose. Choose wisely with good intentions. As I said before, you have one life. Live it. Love it. And that's it for today. Back to your Christmas turkey. There are 2 more episodes to come for 2020, and that's Your Next Chapter with Helen Pollock and Becoming More Significant with Sylvia Baldock. On the 1st of January 2021, we celebrate the new year, Savannah Bananas style, with Find Your Yellow Tux with Jessie Cole. This episode will guarantee to kickstart your 2021 year with fun, adopting Jessie's fan-first philosophy, let's bring the circus to town. Also, let me give you a heads up for 2021. There's going to be 2 episodes a week. So after Jessie's episode on the Friday the 1st of January, Focus on Why podcast will now be released on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. Once again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you so much for tuning in to Focus on Why. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. And going back to Carmen Gallo's advice in his Talk Like Ted book, I won't wish you luck, as luck has little to do with your success in life. You don't need luck. You need courage to follow your passion. Articulate your ideas simply and express what makes your heart sing. So my final message to you today on Christmas Day is pursue your dreams to discover your purpose, understand why you do what you do, and have the courage or conviction to make 2021 your best year yet. Thank you for listening to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlinson, and if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave me a 5-star Apple Podcast review. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and become a member of my inspiring, uplifting, and positive Focus on Why Facebook group. I help people to focus on their why with clarity, uniting their passion with their purpose with a plan to create the life they truly desire. If you would like me to help you focus on your why, then please book a free 20-minute coaching call via calendly.com/Amy Rowlinson. And if you haven't already, please sign up for the Friday Focus weekly newsletter via my website, amyrowlinson.com. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.